My name is Christina McClellan, and along with Rachel Arnson, we are the advisors of the Student Arts Council. So the Student Arts Council tonight is presenting their first event of the semester, a Black History Month artist panel discussion. We're looking forward to this, but first I want us to hear from the chairs of the Student Arts Council. They're going to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about it, and a little bit about the panel tonight. All right, Erin, you want to start us off?
Hi, I'm Erin Spence. I'm a student in the Music Technology program here at UAB, and I'm the Performing Arts Chair of the Student Arts Council. So we're a student group that supports the visual and performing arts entities at UAB. That includes AVA, which is the Abrams Engel Institute for the Visual Arts, the Alice Stevens Center, the Institute for Arts and Medicine, and Art Play. So we serve as a bridge between the visual and performing arts on campus and the student population by raising awareness for arts events on campus and creating arts events geared towards students. Michaela?
Hi, I'm Michaela Hammock, and I'm the Visual Arts Chair for the Student Arts Council. And during this panel discussion, you will hear from several artists about their experience working in the creative industry as a person of color, how their culture inspires their art, and the challenges they faced as minorities in the arts. They'll begin with a brief intro along with some examples of their work, and once they've all had the chance to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about themselves, you all will have the chance to ask any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Erin and Michaela. Yes, so questions are part of a panel. At any point during this panel discussion, if you have questions, please drop it into the chat, which the chat box is located on the bottom of your screen. And one of our council members, Morgan Prater, will ask the question for you. Please note that discriminatory or hate language of any kind will not be tolerated. This session is being recorded, but the recording is going to be largely the spotlighted video of our panelists as well as the screen share. So please feel free to turn on your camera. We love being able to see everyone. However, we do ask that you keep your mics off during the event unless you are unmuting to ask a question. But we do encourage you to drop the question into the chat as well. A few quick housekeeping notes. We did have a PowerPoint up scrolling through some of our upcoming events for the visual and performing arts. I want to highlight that this is the first of the Student Arts Council events for the semester. So please check back in March. We're going to have a virtual virtual concert online that the students will be performing in and putting on. So we hope you guys will come back for that. Other events upcoming this semester that feature UAB students, these are the February 25th, the Juried Student Exhibition virtual reception through AVA. Also through AVA is the spoken word event, which will highlight students in the English department creating poetry about AVA exhibitions. AVA is the art museum at UAB. So that's on March 30th. We also have the Bachelor of Fine Arts graduating seniors. They are going to do our Outside the Lines coloring night on April 4th. And then they also have their closing reception for their exhibition online as well on April 29th. So lots of things involving UAB students this semester. But if you get inspired and you really want to do art this semester, Art Play has these classes that you can take and you don't get graded for it. So it's a great opportunity to get into a new art form without the pressure of a grade. So please check out Art Play classes. Those start in March. So be sure to register for those soon. Okay, now for the main event, I'm actually going to ask Dana to stop screen share for 1 second because we would love to get a screenshot of everyone. So Morgan's going to do the screenshot for us, but let's all just kind of like, applause hands or wave or, just smile. We're going to get a quick screenshot to just kind of record this. They're also writing an article for the student paper Kaleidoscope. So these will go to those.
All right, I have a couple screens. So
excellent. Thank you, Morgan. Okay. So now time for our panelists. So we're going to go ahead and introduce them. Dana, if you would like to go ahead and share. Perfect. Okay. I'm also trying to, oops, did that go away? Awesome. Okay, I have one person. I'm sorry, I'm also trying to spotlight as well, and it disappeared for me. Great. Someone is helping me with that, and I appreciate that. Okay, so while we get that sorted, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. First up, we have Lashandra Hood. Lashandra Hood is a professional actress and manager of fine arts and youth education at Louisville Central Community Center, Incorporated in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville Central Community Center is an African-American owned and operated corporation that serves lower-income families in Western Louisville. The arts education program helps low-income students through visual and performing arts to improve self-expression and achieve academic success. Under Lashandra's leadership, I think I got all the C's in there, was the first arts program to produce a drive-in theater experience in Louisville, Kentucky. This was in response to the global pandemic to adhere to all COVID-19 guidelines. Prior to joining the LCCC team, Lashandra worked as a graduate teaching assistant at the University of Louisville, where she taught acting classes, performed on stage, and directed shows. After leaving the university, she was a full-time artist in residence at the Children's Theater of Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio, where she toured 4 repertory children's shows. Lashandra earned her Bachelor of Arts in Theater Arts from Alabama State University in 2012. 2016, she earned her Master's of Fine Arts in Acting and received her graduate certificate specializing in African American theater from the University of Louisville. Lashandra is a newly elected board member for the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival, the longest standing Shakespearean festival in the United States. She was the acting partner of the 2019 Kennedy Center Irene Ryan recipient, where they made history as the first African-American female duo to win. In 2019, Lashandra was the recipient of the Kingsley Colton Award for the Outstanding Partner National and Jane Alexander Scholarship Award for Acting. Lashandra is also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Lashandra. Yeah. So our second panelist, because we're going to go ahead and just introduce all of them and then have them tell us a little bit about themselves. So our second panelist is Terrence Wimberly. Terrence Wimberly is an interdisciplinary artist and musician from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Using various forms of media and materials, Terrence enjoys exploring ideas about spirituality, community, and nature with the manipulation of the figure and organic imagery. Terrence received his Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in studio art at the University of Alabama in Birmingham in 2019 and is currently based in Atlanta, Georgia, working as a designer for Sparkloft Media. Welcome, Terrence. I also want to say that I think Terrence was in every single one of our juried student exhibitions while he was in school here. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. We're glad to have you back. Also a graduate from UAB, our next panelist is Jameson Evans. Jameson Evans graduated from UAB in 2019 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Art Studio with a concentration in sculpture and is currently working towards opening his own graphic design business and studio. Evans states that his work focuses on life and religion, what drives us as human beings through situations and circumstances that we face in our daily routines. Looking at the works of several artists such as Yoko Ono, Felix Gonzalez Torres, Paul Valinsky, and Guy Laramie, I am inspired by engaging my audience with interaction and using repurposed materials as media. Through these media, I construct pieces using your ordinary found objects to create landscapes, environments, and works that my audience can easily reflect and relate to. While surrounding my viewers in intimate environments, I intentionally encourage them to bring their thoughts into the space alongside my own, seeing the world through my eyes and feeling the vulnerability that drives me as an artist. He also wanted to make sure we mentioned to his sculpture professor, Stacey Holloway, thank you for everything you've done for me and always pushing me to go bigger. I've learned a lot in the world of academia as an artist, and especially since I had been a self-taught artist for 24 years. So our next panelist is a self-taught artist, John Osborne, and he's keeping it a surprise for us, so we're going to hear more from him in just a few seconds. So welcome to all of our panelists. We're really excited to have you guys here and hear from you, and I believe we're going to start off with Lashandra Hood.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lashandra Hood. I am from Birmingham, Alabama, though I don't live there anymore. It is my goal one day to return back to the arts community in Birmingham, where I started. You know, I started unofficially in the church with like my Easter speeches and Christmas speeches. I was the kid that was excited to be married, okay? Joseph did not feel the same way, all right? Joseph was forced to be Joseph, but I enjoyed being married every Christmas. So after I found out that I really enjoyed the arts, I signed up for theater classes, and the rest, you know, is history. When your hobby becomes your passion and your passion becomes your career, now I currently serve as the manager of fine arts and youth education at Louisville Central Community Center. And though I'm not from here, I promise you the arts community here will grow on anybody. So I'm really excited to be in Louisville to see all of the opportunities that are out there. I went to Alabama State for theater. And, you know, when you first tell your family, hey, I don't want to be a nurse anymore, I want to be an artist, everybody looks at you a little crazy. So fighting through that to find myself and really what I wanted to do with my art was super important from the very beginning. I think when you have to get your family on board to see the vision, first you have to be the visionary and be able to clearly communicate, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it. I don't think artists can walk out without a plan and just think that it's going to fall in our laps. So I appreciate my family and how they really picked up the baton and helped me kind of push along to see the future in theater, in the arts, and that how important it is. I appreciate that I no longer have to explain to my close circle why it's important. I don't have to justify my art because they understand. We are teachers as artists. We are therapists as artists. We are motivators. We are politicians. We are whatever is needed we can be through our art. And so I'm really excited about sharing my journey as an artist. I started at Alabama State and they were big on musicals. So coming from a person that they thought was going to be able to sing, I think sometimes my talking voice gets people a little excited, like I'm just going to be able to sound like Jennifer Hudson or something. And so fighting through that to find my artistry, not what people projected on me to be, what they expected me to be, based on my look, based on my sound, based on whatever they base it on. I think that is always a journey that every artist has to go on, especially if they're trying to make a career out of it. I'm really excited to share with you all today. Bring the questions on. I got my notes and my notepad so I don't forget anything. I'm super excited. As you see, some of my favorite works, I shared some of my favorite works with you all, some of the most memorable moments, life-changing moments. From the first show being my thesis role with The Mountaintop by Katori Hall, from grad school to the Kennedy Center Awards with my one of my favorite actresses, Taylor Ross. And so all of the shows that I've shared in between were just pivotal moments in my life that really made me who I am today.
Thank you, Lashandra. Next, we have Terrence Wimberly.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I'm not echoing. Okay.
You're not echoing.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna run through some of my works here. We're gonna keep it by the book so we can get this pretty quickly done. So like we said, my work crosses the disciplines of design, illustration, and music, with it all rooted in drawing. And like a lot of people, I began drawing early on in childhood, but I really began to explore different forms of drawing and drawing as a form of communication during my time at UAB. For me personally, drawing is always a big opportunity for self-exploration. Those before were a few of my earlier works from UAB. The one on the right and the bottom middle are from a 2017 exhibition called From Life, where I painted a few of my friends over collaged dead leaves that I found around Birmingham. And the top left and bottom left are some figure studies that led directly into my BFA work. That's in the next slide. So these are photos of my 2019 BFA exhibition that I called Nameless. For this exhibition, I explored nude figure drawing and layering figures to create more complex bodies and compositions. And I also built 3D structures to mimic the essence of an actual figure or a spiritual figure in the space. And again, to Jameson's mention of Stacey Holloway, it would not have been what it was without Professor Stacey Holloway. She was amazing. But yeah, this was a really big part of my creativity at UAB. Music is also a big part of my practice. My musical practice is equally, if not sometimes more personal and important to me than drawing. I began releasing music with a group of my friends in high school who started a rap collective called No Coast Company in Colorado Springs around 2013. But I really started to learn how to produce and record my own music in Birmingham when I moved around 2015. I performed at a few Birmingham venues and events like Saturn, the Firehouse, and Birmingham Art Walk. And I currently do vocals and production and the visual art direction for my own funk band called Short Shorts. And we're currently working on our first full-length album right now. Music, for me, is at times more exciting as a form of exploration for myself, because I feel like there's always something new to learn and something new to work towards. And it's also a lot easier sometimes to just open up my computer and open up Ableton and just start exploring new things. So yeah. Next slide, I guess. Right now, these are some of my current works from 2020. Currently, I work as a designer for a company called Sparkloft Media in Atlanta, and I get the opportunity to do work for clients like Adidas Basketball, Macy's, and Atlanta's Convention and Visitors Bureau. This work here isn't any of that work because a lot of that work is video and motion graphic. But these are some of my really prized opportunities from the past year that I was able to incorporate illustration and drawing into my design, because whenever I get the opportunity to do that at work, I really like to take it and really take full advantage of it as a chance to show myself in the work rather than just the brand. But it's really time-consuming work and really rewarding work. But my current motivation right now is learning how to manage my time and balance both my current design career and a career in music and pursuing a successful career in music simultaneously. And this slide right here is a frame of an animation piece that I was able to do for Adidas Basketball, and this was one of a series of 3. But yeah, that's all my current work, and that's who I am.
Great. Thank you, Terrence. Up next, we have Jameson Evans.
Hey guys. So, as everybody knows, I am a UAB graduate. I graduated in 2019. I have a day job so far. So a lot of my colleagues are a lot further along than me, seems like, but I'm still getting my ball moving. I have been doing a lot of graphic design work, really. I've fallen in love with sculpture nonetheless, though. And I decided to do that as a concentration during my career at UAB. And I fell in love with the idea of being able to make something, and while I'm making that something, being able to have a meaning on why I create what I create. My work is, it deals with a lot of text. So text is very powerful in my work because it allows me to get my thoughts that I have inside of my head, like out on either paper or just whatever I, decide to create that day. So, I've just really just been grinding, honestly. I've been doing the graphic design work for about 5 to 6 years now. Haven't taken a class for it. That wasn't my concentration during school or anything, but I've learned to basically stretch myself as an artist, not to just be sold on to just one particular thing as an artist. Like I've always felt that I should be able to do whatever it is I put my mind to as an artist. If I want to dabble in the graphic design, if I want to dabble in the drawing, the painting, I may not be the best, but I learned that art is what I interpret out of it. And everybody can bring in their interpretations of it as well. I've also been really, really just focused on wanting to open my own art studio one day. And I'm also like in the process of doing all of that, and as well as like opening a graphic design business, because I found out just in these 5 or 6 years, like I'm good at it. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy building the clientele, which also builds relationships as well. And I still have just different people that want me to even dabble in my artistry. Like right now I have a client that wants me to create a sculpture piece for her house, and that's like pretty cool. So it goes back to like a piece that's not on any of the slides. I did a piece called Ascension. On it basically dealt with my granddad that died in 2015, and he never went to church or anything. So I decided to actually take all 66 books of a Bible and make them into individual origami doves, and they in turn themselves created a even bigger bird. So I have a client that wants me to do like a set of angel wings, and I was like, hey, maybe I can like make them out of like individual angel wings into like even bigger angel wings. So that's pretty cool to have just a lot of people that recognize my work and recognize that I'm doing something big, even though I'm not doing everything that I want to be doing like my colleagues are doing. But it's just that I realize that even in the midst of the day job, like people still, they see me, and they see the work that I'm doing. It doesn't go unnoticed, because I've struggled with that for a while, just not being where I've wanted to be, or where I feel like I should be. But it's you guys and just people that remind me, hey, your art means something, or you know you're doing the right thing. You may not be where you are, but where you think you should be, but you're like right here in the midst of where you need to be. So my art really not only resonates with me, but it resonates with like my viewers as well. And that's one thing that I've learned. It's not only dealing with the things that I go through on my everyday basis, but it also touches the lives of others. My time at UAB was great. I never thought that I would learn what I learned at UAB, especially with it being like a predominantly medical school. The art program is amazing. Like Stacy, she was amazing. Like she helped me out so much, and now I cannot create a small work like at all, no matter what I'm doing. Even if I want to go smaller, like she's just like, no, go bigger. And that's all that I hear. Like anytime I create anything, no, you need to go bigger. You need to go bigger. Like I just see this on a bigger scale. So, I just appreciate everybody. I appreciate, my colleagues, Terrence, working alongside him. I appreciate him. It's so many times that me and him have had just like one-on-one conversations with me, him, and Gianni. Like, during our BFA exhibitions, like we had so many one-on-ones, and it's like, encouraging each other. So, that's one thing that I've learned about the art community. No matter what you're doing, whether you're an artist, you're a sculptor, you consider yourself a painter, a performance artist, we help each other in every way possible. And, that's what keeps me going as an artist. That's what drives me. And I just appreciate everybody for it. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jameson. And our last artist for tonight is John Osborne.
How's everyone doing this evening? I'm John Osborne. A little bit about myself. I'm a contemporary painter, originally from Lowndes County, Alabama, very small town. Right now, I'm taking time to work on some things that are very catered towards people with TBIs, traumatic brain injury for short. And so, since I had so many art festivals last year and art events last year, I'm taking time to slow things down to concentrate on teaching art to people with disabilities like myself. So I would love to be an advocate for for people with TBIs. So a little bit about my art. It's a mixture of music therapy. I use music as a catalyst to express things about identity, and pretty much what I feel. I paint. So and I try to tell a story of what I see and what I see going on. So it's very simplistic for what I do. I'm doing pandemic stuff is right now is kind of hard to do some shows, but for right now, I'm working on some work, like I said, around about the TBI stuff. So that's where I'm at right now.
Great, thank you, John. Thank you all the panelists. We're going to go ahead and get started with the questions, and these will be asked by our Student Arts Council members. So, Mikey, you are up.
Okay. Hi. Very glad to be here. So my question is: Blackness is a living, dynamic quality. How does Blackness and Black culture impact or influence your work? Specifically, how does being Black influence your choice in roles, portrayals, or influence specific themes and motifs in your work or general artistic style?
I will. Sorry, I just want to break the awkward silence and say that Lashandra should answer this one.
Okay, great. Let's jump right in there. I think, yes, I guess the short answer of that is yes. It most definitely influences every aspect of my art. As an African American, that's the only way I know how to navigate the world is as an African American. So I believe that any art that I touch automatically, innately becomes Black because I am Black and I bring my stories, my background, my experiences into any role that I take on. Now, it gets a little tricky when the role was not intended for me or was not written with me or someone that looks like me in mind. So it can be a challenge if not handled with care when you take on a role that was not written for you in mind. I think it has to be a strategic plan in place by not only the actor, but the directors that want to talk about diversity and inclusion. But if you're going to be inclusive, you have to know who you're including and the subliminal messages that will be shared within that play or within that performance with Black artists. So the short answer is yes. Everything I touch is Black because I am Black.
I'm sorry for putting you on this spot, Lashandra. I hope that didn't make us not friends.
Terrence, do you want to add to that from a visual arts perspective, or even from a musician side?
From a musician side, well, gosh, I think I mean, like she said, yeah. It's short answer is yes. I think that I like to think that anything I touch and do, no matter where the influences are coming from, like whether it's visual or musical, like whether I'm like taking like whether I'm like inspired by like an Indonesian guitar song, or I'm sampling like old 50s white people music. Like I like to think that no matter what I do, I am making it Black by putting myself into it. But it is hard to answer, to try to like think about roles that I play as an artist and a musician, and how my Blackness influences that. I think the closest I could get to like answering that one is, or the closest I could give to like an example for my answer for that is how different I perform my Blackness on stage versus when I'm just like chilling. I'm like naturally pretty introverted, but when I'm on stage, I'm the messy uncle. Like I'm really like, I am Unc on stage straight up, and like James Brown, Teddy Pendergrass, all that like that exuberantness that like you think of when you think about like 60s, 70s, like Black exploitation / funk / soul / like that epitome. I study that a lot, and I really like to perform that when I perform, because it makes me feel really free. So that's the closest I can give to an example, but short answer is just like, yes, I think it influences it a lot.
Great. And since this is kind of like a kickoff question, I would also love to hear from Jameson and John on this. John, would you like to start off?
Well, for me, being a self-taught artist and being from Loudoun County, most of the art was mostly folk art, which you use different materials and stuff. So I kind of grew into using that as a way of expressing my artwork. So my artwork could be from using one of my new pieces. I used a tabletop and mirrors. I use unconventional items. So I just kind of go from, that's the way what I studied when I growing up. I just kind of stuck to that way of expressing my art.
Great. And Jameson?
Sorry, guys, my eyes itching. But I would say to piggyback off of Lashandra and Terrence and John as well. Short answer, yes. And simply because like just me going through the academic side of art school, being a self-taught artist, I've put my spin on everything. I may not be your traditional figure drawer. Like my figures, I've never been good at drawing people, so I just put my own twist on everything. And it stems from things that you go through in childhood, things that you experience on a day-to-day basis, just being a Black man or being a Black woman. We may not do things as perfect as the next person. It just shows us that we all do things differently. And, me just as an artist, you put your own spin on it being Black. It may not look like the next person, but hey, I've learned that my work is my work. I may not work with the top quality things. I may find beauty in the natural objects, which is what I use in my work. Like I find beauty in, using the everyday stuff. So, just what they said as well. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. I think we already have a question in the chat. Morgan, would you like to go ahead and ask that one?
This is a question for Lashandra. What's your favorite musical to watch or perform?
My favorite musical is The Color Purple. When I tell you I have that CD in my car and sometimes it's just on repeat over and over again, I love that musical. When I was in undergrad, I tried out for The Color Purple. I wanted to be Sophia. I was determined I was going to be Sophia until I realized I had to curse in the role. Then I didn't want it anymore. I did not want to curse. I would not curse. She has a song called H No. Okay, just fill in the H, and that's what it is. That's the title of the song. And I got up there, whole chorus is H no. And I wouldn't say the H word. Therefore, they did not cast me because that's not what the song says. So, roundabout, I just auditioned for the role. I did say the H word for the audition. I was cast as Sophia, The Color Purple, coming soon.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question, and that one's going to be asked by Addie.
Hey, my question is, were there any struggles as a minority in the arts or any advantages? Do you ever feel the art community tries to put you in a box as a minority? And can you share how that impacts your art or how you communicate and exist within each of your industries and artistic communities?
Shall we start in reverse? And Jameson, you go first.
I'll go first. I would say for me, yes, I've had struggles. Simply because I don't do things like the next person. Especially like having a lot of artists, in my opinion, that were better than me at certain things. It did cause me to struggle because it was like, most teachers, they didn't give me the for lack of a better word, like the time like that I needed if we were working on like certain projects and I didn't understand, or I would do something different thinking that I fulfilled the assignment or things like that. And that really put me like in a struggle moment because it was like, I felt like my art wasn't good enough some certain days, or like I had a lot of days where I felt like I just wasn't, like art just wasn't for me, even though, that was my passion or I love doing that. Even with just people recognizing my art in general, I may not get the feedback that I think that I should get, certain days creating certain pieces, or, we get into shows, you may not get the feedback that, you would want to get for a piece that you create and you take the time to create the piece. Like you put thought into it, you put process into it, like sweat, tears, just things like that. And it's like, that causes you to struggle too as well, being Black in the art community, because it's like, you don't get the recognition that you think you should deserve, or you don't get that uplifting feeling like when you create something that you feel is beautiful. So yes, I would say, I've had struggles, but I've learned to just overcome them and be okay with not getting the recognition, or like just not getting the help that you really need, from people that you feel that you should get the help from. I've learned to just be okay with it and still just keep going. It's something like John told me one day. John Fields told me one day. I went out for a internship one summer, like I think it was last year, and I didn't get the feedback that I thought I should have gotten, because everybody thought that, oh yeah, I think you should go out for this, like you'll get it. And I got turned down, and it was just like, that was a struggle for me. That was a huge blow for me. But one thing that John told me was, a good artist gets no's, but they don't let the no's stop them. And when he told me that, I'm like, that really hit home for me. You know, no matter whether I get the no's, once I get that yes, like completely run with it. So, you know, that was one thing that, you know, helped me overcome like a lot of struggles that I faced. I'm gonna get the no's sometimes, but once I get that yes, just run with that yes.
What a great answer. Maybe we have one more answer for this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
go for
one.
it, Terrence.
Yes, definitely. I have. I don't know. I don't want to like make it seem like I went through I went through the trenches trying to get my art out or anything. But like, definitely there are struggles that I had run into at UAB and in Birmingham, with trying to like get my work out, with just trying to get my work respected or just get my work looked at a lot of times. And I learned recently from a post that my girlfriend shared to her story, that was a definition for oppressive aesthetics. And I'll read it out. Oppressive aesthetics refer to the influence of aesthetic culture, art, fashion, music, media, and other forms of cultural production as a part of systems of oppression and domination. These aesthetics posit themselves as naturally superior and have been used by white colonial powers for expansion and justified cultural erasure, used of use of enslaved and or exploited labor, genocide, stolen land, and natural resources, pollution, and more. So I think like in a larger sense, I haven't. Well, I think in a larger sense, there's a lot of like really huge oppressive aesthetics that that impose and like pose challenges for us like in our everyday society, in ways like body image, like how to present yourself as a Black person or a non-white person. But I think very little small, subtle, very small, subtle, stylistic, oppressive aesthetics were things that I found myself adapting to and having to learn, during my time at UAB completely on my own. And a lot of times out of just like watching how my work would be received by a professor in class time, and then watching how a white student's work would be received, and then analyzing like kind of what they were doing, what I was doing, and then thinking, okay, so if I just like put less on the page, it'll be better. Like, oh, if I just like do this thing, it'll be better. Which, once again, like I'm not trying to label that as oppressive aesthetics. That's super duper small and super duper subtle, but it's one of those things that I found myself having to adjust my entire like creative trajectory around in order to like get my stuff listened to, or in order to get somebody to ask me like why I did something, instead of just, you know, kind of shrug it off. But then again, like once again, all this stuff is just opinion. Like it doesn't make you racist if you think minimalism is cool or maximalism is cool. But I did run into that in relation to race, a lot in Birmingham and Alabama, or in UAB.
Thank you. I'm going to let Disney ask the next question because I think it runs into this question pretty well. And maybe we have Lashandra or John start off with the next one. So Disney, would you like to ask the next one?
Yeah, I think Terrence kind of touched on this question, his answer, but it's, have you felt a need to create work that caters to a mainstream audience? Have you noticed a disparity in the reception of you or your peers' mainstream artwork or performances compared to explicitly or implicitly Black artwork?
I could start it off. Okay. Yes, there is always a need to go for mainstream. I think part of the desire to be mainstream is so that one day you can have a platform where you don't have to have the acceptance of anyone else, but you can create your own work unapologetically. However, the harsh reality is, as African American artists, we need money to produce these works. So you have to break into mainstream in order to get this mainstream money, in order to produce the work that you want. So I think there's a both and always. There has to be some type of balance. You have your goal, your eyes set on the ending goal, but you also have to have that very immediate goal that you do need. There is a sense of need to break into mainstream in order to get that. And the second part of that question, I do think it's hard for African American works to break into mainstream. It is hard to get everyone to get on board with Fences by August Wilson, as opposed to it being labeled as a Black piece. It's a Black show, it's for Black audiences, but it's not. I think when artists can transcend space and time and take you to another place, into another era, then they are doing their job. And then it no longer matters just that they're Black or that they're white, but it matters the stories that they're telling. I think when we can accept the story and the humanity of any story, that's when, as performing artists, that's who I speak for, I can only speak for performing artists, that's when we are doing our job. When you can remove that this is a Black show, but that you can see that in Fences, the dad isn't a villain, or Troy isn't a villain, as much as he desires for his son to make it in this world, to be somebody and not have to conform in order to get that. He just wants the best for his son. Does he go about it the right way? You know, that's questionable. For Rose in Fences, I mean, it's not a Black thing for a woman to be cheated on and having to deal with the aftermath of that. When we talk about human issues, anyone can go through infidelity and deal with cheating. When you just look at the human part of a plot, then I think it could, all good shows have the potential to break into mainstream. It's just when we get out of the mindset that it's a Black show, so it's for Black audiences, it's for Black patrons to go and support, as opposed to what is the show about. So there's a desire always to break into mainstream so that one day you can unapologetically do your own work and tell your own stories and don't have to ask permission of anybody else. You just do it and you live in that, because that is African Americans' walks of life.
Absolutely. John, do you want to add to that?
Well, for me personally, when I got into doing my artwork, I did it for like a self-expression. It's my expression, and if coming mainstream is the goal, it's a plus. But it is hard to become in mainstream sometimes when and it depends on with my art. My art resonated with people that understood what I was doing. So, and that was any audience. So, but being mainstream is very difficult to become mainstream, and that is the goal for many people. But you be realistic. If you're doing the work for yourself and you're doing work authentically with the story for for people to understand what you're doing and getting your message across, and be respected, I feel like all the pieces would come together with that. And could you repeat the second part, second question?
Yeah, it says, have you noticed a disparity in the reception of you or your peers' mainstream artwork or performances compared to explicitly or implicitly Black artwork?
Yes. With that, I've had I had some pushback on some of my artwork where people I had a very negative response to my artwork. But at the same time, when I'm doing my artwork for myself and for my message, I feel like it makes me happy. So if you're doing something you're passionate about and it's not received well by other people, you know, I feel like I did the best I can at what I do best. So, you know, so I do it for the passion, for my love of it. So that's all I say about that.
Thank you, John. Let's have Sarah Ding ask our next question.
Okay. Hi guys. How do you believe the arts, both performing and visual, contributes to raising awareness to social issues such as police brutality?
I think it's a I think that's a very, very tricky question. Not just because it's police brutality, but because like performing arts or like arts in general, especially right now, like art is a product. And like a lot of times if you try to relate to police brutality, if you try to like perform it in order to bring awareness or try to depict it in order to bring awareness or talk about it or pay condolences to someone who is like a victim, no matter what, you're turning it into like a product. And that's bad, I think. And it's like I read that question and like tried to find a good way to talk about it, like some way to think about it like positively. And I think I don't know, I can only think of a fantasy world where like art and music and performance wasn't like a product. Then it would be like that'd be a great conversation to have. But I can only think of like, no, don't do it, please. Don't don't release a song or a music video about police brutality. Don't do it. But I think there are positive representations here and there. It's just really hard for me to think about.
Can I chime in, or Lashandra, did you want to go?
You can go first.
Okay. To kind of just pick back up on what Terrence was saying, I think that you can actually kind of like bring art into the police brutality in a positive light, even if you're trying to shed light on to the things that are, bad that are going on. It can, bringing art into that situation can also wake up people, whether we, believe it will or it won't. I even look at like just the George Floyd like artworks. I saw a mural recently that somebody did of George Floyd. It was beautiful. And he died in a brutal way, but that mural for me of George Floyd, that did something for my heart, because it was just like, he died in a way that nobody would want to die, but it was also like a wake up call to, the Black community, even some of the whites, like some of the whites just started standing. And, we as a human race would never think that a white person would stand with somebody that just got brutally murdered, just because he was Black. That was a very beautiful moment for me. Even though it was tragic, it was beautiful to see like a piece of artwork that was just basically done on a wall that we see every day, and it unified people. So speaking on the police brutality in the art world, like for me, that was one of the most amazing pieces that I had ever seen, because it unified us. Whether it be like for a specific, like a split second, like we were still unified in the fact that somebody of, a Black African American guy basically got murdered in the wrong way. And we stood as a people so unified in that regard. So it's to me, it's a way to actually shed a positive light on the bad things that are going on in the world. Because whether we look at it or not, whether we say like, oh, this person won't listen or this group of people won't listen, at the end of the day, somebody's gonna listen. So you know, it's a way to bring positivity to the bad things that are going on in the world. And I salute all of the artists, whether it's a performance, whether it's a mural or a painting. I salute everybody that's bringing positivity to it, because it's easy to shed positivity on bad things, whether we believe it or not.
I think if I can add a few words to this question, I think as artists, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think as artists, as an African American artist, it is my duty to shed light on certain issues. I think there are the runners, there are the readers, and there are the writers. And those are the people that are making the movement happen. Everybody cannot be a runner. Everybody is not a person to go with protest and do marches. That's not everybody's story, but it doesn't mean that we can't all have a part to play, that we don't all have a part to play in changing society and how we are viewed in the world and how we get to shape our walk of life as African Americans. So I think as an African American artist, it is my duty to share these stories and to shed light. And with that, everybody may not be able to go to a protest to educate themselves about the African American experience. But when you walk into a museum and you're educated in a way that doesn't feel like you're being attacked, but that it's a way that you can swallow this pill to understand African American stories and journeys, I think it allows for everyone to be educated on our stories. I wouldn't want to go to a protest and try to find out the African American story in the middle of a protest. I wouldn't want to do that. It can be a tense environment, but art, what it allows us to do, visual or performing arts. For the performing arts side, I was speaking with a friend today, and she reminded me of the fourth wall. The audience is protected by that fourth wall. Actors don't normally break the fourth wall in that they aren't there. Audience members aren't there. So it allows these raw stories to be told on stage in a less harsh environment in order for people to be open to hear these stories. And as far as creating work that speaks directly to police brutality, I think it memorializes these martyrs in a way that they live on forever, so that we remember their stories, that this was a part of our people, but it doesn't have to stay this way. So I think when you talk about like the murals, I think it's a way to memorialize that person, and that you never forget it. Sometimes it has to be in your face, such as a mural, for you to remember this is our history, but it does not have to be our future. So that's my thought.
Thank you. We actually ended up getting a lot of questions in the chat during this. So this is a fantastic question and topic for us to explore. And I'm aware we are at 7 o'clock right now, but if you guys will stay with us for a few more minutes, I would love for Morgan to ask these two follow-up questions. And then I have one last question to ask you guys. So Morgan, would you like to ask those two together?
Sure. So the first one is from Erin. Says, I feel like I've seen art in the context of bringing awareness to social issues for my whole life. Is the productness of art necessarily inherent, and does it, being a product, have to prevent it from also bringing awareness to issues in a respectful manner? And the other one is from Hannah, and it's specifically for Terrence. Is your concern about art about police brutality and racism related to the commodification of those tragedies and a potential profit motive?
Can I answer the one specifically for me and then the one on top of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes to Hannah. That is what my concern is. And I realized, Erin, I was thinking about the negatives. I very much was. And I think, like, reading your question brought up a lot of positive and respectful depictions of art bringing awareness to these issues, and even police brutality particularly, and some that were even products in my head that really touched me. So I guess I want to give those as an example, and then talk about the examples that kind of came straight into my head, the negative examples, because I think it is, like, once again, it's really tricky because there are people that do it really right. There are respectful ways to do it. And to go back to your question again, I don't think art being a product is an inherent quality to art. But I recently finished When They See Us, and it took me a while to finish When They See Us on Netflix because it's really, really, really heavy and really, really immersive. And I finished I think the last 2 or 3 episodes and cried. It really touched me, and it really introduced me to a level of police brutality that I hadn't been introduced to before. I hadn't really known much about that story, and I don't know anything about what goes on behind jail doors. Like, I don't know what happens to those people. I didn't know prior how the police coerce people into admitting to doing things that they didn't even do. And I didn't know before watching that series how frequent that happens even to this day. And that was a depiction of something that really happened, and a really respectful one. So I think that, yeah, I don't think that art being a product is an inherent quality. And I think there are definitely ways to bring awareness to issues in a respectful manner. And I guess I also said I wanted to bring up the negative example that came into my head. But the first thing that came into my head was like those Virgil Abloh put out a music video last year, I think maybe around like fall time. And it was a music video with Lupe Fiasco. And he designed a shoe for it and called it the Air Ahmaud. Like, after Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was killed here in Atlanta over the summer outside of a Wendy's for just sitting in his car drunk, waiting to sober up before going home. Virgil Abloh made a shoe out of it, like, months later. And that was something that to me was really disrespectful, and not really like working towards any kind of progress or awareness, but more so just, like Hannah said, commodifying Ahmaud Arbery's death for a music video and a shoe opportunity. So yeah, I also want to apologize for being so negative right off the bat. Dang, that was, geez. But yeah. Oh wait, did I say? I'm sorry. Ahmaud was killed. I don't know if I accidentally said that I don't know if I accidentally said something, but Ahmaud was killed here in Atlanta. He wasn't the one killing. Sorry.
He was killed while jogging. He had gone while out jogging. Yeah, those 2 shootings happened, unfortunately, at the within a few weeks of each other.
They definitely did.
Yes. Okay. Well, did anyone else have anything to add to that one? Because I do have one last question for you guys. And first, I want to thank you all for your honesty and vulnerability with those questions. It's a wonderful thing to hear you guys to talk about and be so honest and vulnerable with your answers. So thank you for that. The last question, I'm going to mint some of the, because I have some questions here from the students, so I'm going to kind of to splice them together real quick for this final question. What kind of impactful moment have you had in your artistic career as a success or failure? And with that, what advice would you impart on artists as they are kind of starting out in their careers? Maybe John, we haven't heard from you in a minute. Would you like to start us off? What kind of advice would you impart? And is there a success or failure that really stands out in your mind?
I would say, first of all, with artists starting out, I would say do work that you feel that reflect the message that you want to portray. Be fearless in what you do, but be open to learning and listen to advice of your professors and colleagues. But trust your instincts when you're doing your work. But the highlight, I would say, was 2019. I did I won some awards and everything like that. But I feel like my work is going in another direction. So, but like I say, stay creative and keep pushing forward, and know that what you're doing is needed. Artists are needed.
Thank you. Jameson?
I would say my highlight for me would honestly go back to my, career at UAB. Especially for being a self-taught artist for 24 years, learning the academic side of things and, failing at certain things that I thought that I was good at. It's kind of like an eye opener. And I appreciate those failures. I appreciate the successes, which some of the student shows that I was actually a part of, even like my Bfa exhibition, I never thought, in a million years that I would be able to exhibit my artwork, even if it was just on a student level. I never thought that I would be able to exhibit my artwork in a museum gallery space. So that was a big success for me. That was amazing. It made me feel as if, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can really do this. So I would say to just everybody that wants to start their art career, whether you're at a day job or anything, don't give up on your art career. Even if you're not as far along as you feel like you should be, never give up. Always take the no's. When you get the no's, always remember that you will get a yes. And just when you're passionate about something, don't let it die. Always create every day. And that's one thing that I'm learning. Create every day. You have to perfect your craft. And just once you get a big support system, don't let it fall. Like, stay behind it. Get you good people behind you. And just soak up whatever you can soak up. Be a sponge. And just, like John said, be fearless. Be fearless. Don't be scared. Don't let anything stop you. Don't even let yourself stop you, because ourselves are our biggest enemies. Keep yourself in check. Always, always create.
Thank you, Jameson. Let's see. Terrence?
I'm not gonna lie. I started overthinking about having the Ahmaud Arbery mistake and confusing him with Rashard Brooks. So I didn't catch what the question was.
That's totally fine. So what is a impactful moment in your career, either as a success or failure? And then what advice would you impart upon artists getting started in their career, particularly college students?
Okay. An impactful moment in my art career. Dang, I might just have to be negative again, because the only one I could think of was a negative, impactful moment. But yeah, I think like in particular, and since we're talking about UAB, I think my first BFA review, I was disgustingly unprepared, and not only did I have like one of my friends set up some work that was just like thrown around in my BFA cubicle. Not only did I have them set it up for me while I was on the way there, from printing out my artist statement, but like I showed up like a minute or two late. And that's like a habit that I have. I have a habit of like being late to things that are important because I get scared and I end up avoiding those things. And that was a moment where that like really came down on me, and all the professors lined up for my BFA review like shredded me like cheese about it, one by one. And that really changed the course of how I decided to do things afterwards and how I decided to prepare myself for things. Because I mean, like everyone says, like you either like, what is it? It's like what is it? Like you either planning, I don't know. It's like you plan ahead or you plan to fail or something like that. And yeah, I've definitely been approaching my life that way, and sometimes I definitely like get ghosts of that moment coming back in my career now, and it always scares me back into shape. And I always at least make sure to be proactive and quick about apologizing for being late, so that I don't get like shredded. But yeah, sorry, I'm negative Nancy today. Sheesh.
Well, failures are important because then that was a turning point in your career. And those tend to be the ones that stay with you. I think I see everybody nodding their heads. So they're important to remember and embrace. Thank you, Terrence. Lashandra, would you like to tell us your greatest success or failure? And then what advice would you impart upon students?
Sure. Impactful moments, I think, was going to school for theater, believing that that was what I was supposed to do, that that was my God-given talent, and then really going with it and sticking with it. So I think Alabama State gave me the confidence and made me strong, know how to really work to get a role. And then University of Louisville kind of finished it off with really being able to educate myself about all works of theater. So those were very impactful moments for me. Neither one of them were easy, but it was so meaningful, and it shaped me to be who I am as an artist. And then if I have any advice to give, I have 3 points and I'm gonna leave it alone. One, take every opportunity given. They may seem small, but those connections can take you places that you never thought you would go. Summer stock. If you're a performer, it's theater summer stock. People sleep on summer stock. I'm not sure the equivalent for our visual artists, but some type of summer program, summer training, because while we are striving to be in the places and meet the people that are already where we want to be, it's the people that are working right alongside us that are going to take those roles that we are going to need to be connected with. The other 2 points that I want to make is you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You can't get other people to believe in you if you don't believe in you, if you don't believe in your artwork. So you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And then the last point, hit it and quit it, is to not compare yourself to other artists. It is crazy to do that, because it gets in your psyche. Don't worry about anybody else's journey but yours. Your artistic journey is yours. It's all yours and nobody else's. So avoid comparison at all costs.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. I very much appreciate all of you being here and taking the time to be with us tonight. The sign language for applause is this. And so this is how we tend to like to say thank you and acknowledge all of your experiences and for bringing them to the table. We very much appreciate it. I really enjoyed learning from all of you. So thank you again, applause. So for everyone else, please stay tuned into UAB Student Arts Council. You can follow us at the Art Play Instagram account, Art Play UAB. We hope to see you back here again for our virtual concert in March. And again, I keep wanting to say thank you. This was a wonderful experience, a wonderful night. Thank you again, Lashandra, Terrence, John, and Jameson. Thank you so much. Everyone, have a great night.